Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our humble podcast, Legal Tech Light. Today I have joining me, Michelle Hamilton, our Managed Services Division Lead, and very excited to have Corbin French, our Professional Services Division Lead. And today we're going to talk about 4 ways to keep your data fresh within your legal operations solution. I called it something different the last time we tried to do this. So,
But
welcome.
before we get into all of that, can I just say how excited I am that we're all in the office this time? This is our first recording for all of us to be in the office, and I'm just really excited about because normally I work remotely. So, yes.
Very exciting.
Yes.
Always a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, that's so sweet.
It is actually. We enjoy having Michelle around, and I love this wall.
Yeah, it's
This wall
amazing.
is fantastic. So
Pretty sure
it's a good backdrop.
our boss Alicia did this,
Yes,
didn't she?
I believe so. The COO of Mosaic Consulting.
Yeah.
Alicia Mangle.
She did a great job.
Anyway, welcome
Thank you.
all. Welcome, Corbin.
Thank you.
Thank you for talking about this subject with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought, when you came to me and asked me to think of a topic to do for the podcast series, I thought that, in my role, just to introduce myself to everyone watching, I'm the Division Lead of Professional Services and Project Manager here at Mosaic Consulting. Been here almost 2 years now. Started as a billing guideline reviewer and worked my way up through coordinator roles for various clients, various platforms and solutions. And so now my team and I, we do a lot of optimizations, implementations, and we go in and we just initially, we look for things that could be going wrong, things that could be causing any type of chaos within processes, any gaps in processes. And so I really thought it'd be a good idea to go over just 4 things that anyone can do, regardless of your proficiency in any solution, just to identify any kind of stale data, anything that may be clogging any pathways in the solution or anything causing any issues, like I said. So I thought it'd be great to go over that.
It is, because when you invest that much money in a solution, and especially with things going on in the world as they are now, a lot of people want to keep that solution. And so when it starts not being fresh, it's hard. It makes it look like your solution isn't working. So
Well, it isn't working because if your data is stagnant, if there's bad data in there, then you're getting nothing out of your system. It's not you're paying for something that you're not even using correctly, and you're wasting your money.
Absolutely. And so I'll just jump right into it.
Yeah,
The first thing that I look for is user permissions, which is surprising to most people, but making sure that you're identifying the right people to make the right changes and implement the right different workflows or processes in your solution is key. Because if there are too many hands in the pot, so to speak, it's very easy to have the data be skewed, to have just something put in the wrong place, just accidentally, just because they don't know any better. So making sure your users have the right permissions and limiting permissions, although it kind of seems like a bad thing to say to people, it kind of has some negative connotations there, but really just limiting permissions to make sure everything, once it's put in place properly, it stays that way, and the people that change it know what they're doing, really.
yeah, that makes sense.
So I think that's a really good point, because if you have users who have access higher than what they really should, then, and I don't want to make it sound like that, but if you have somebody who should really just have matter creator rights, let's say that is a role in the system that you're using, but you give them admin access and they can then do whatever they want, and that's when mistakes happen. And also, you got to look at it from a compliance side as well.
Absolutely, and compliance and securities. Because a lot of the data that's stored within any solution say you work with 150 different outside counsel firms and you have all of their contact information, who the billing coordinator is, who the system administrator is, their office location. I mean, that's still confidential information, regardless of if you can find it elsewhere. Having any type of confidential information accessible to a large number of people, it really kind of goes on the cusp of going out of compliance, really, and the security there is not great. So with that, when I do any kind of initial look around in any solution, the next thing is running reports. And so I run reports to identify any type of stale data, such as documents that have been stale that aren't active anymore, any matters that back your users, anyone that has left the company, not working with them, but they still have an active account.
That's a compliance issue too. And that can be a really big deal, and that's something that anytime I'm talking with my clients, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's a really good point, and it's really important. If you have users that are having permissions in your system and they're no longer with your company, they can still get into your system and do whatever they have access to do. So that's a big deal.
Absolutely. And then with any stale matters, stale workflows, just say it's a litigation matter that was resolved 2 years prior to running this report and it's still open in whatever the solution is. I mean, you should probably close that, have the resolve put in there so that way you have an accurate record. And so if any audits happen internally, externally, everything is up to date, and any open matters, open workflows, open live documents are actually live and open in real life. So with that,
Well,
go ahead.
Well, because we're talking about reporting, good data in, good data out.
Exactly.
That's that cleanup piece that we are always harping about.
Yes. I always say to my clients, your solution is only as good as what you put into it. Because if you put in 3 matters into a matter management platform and you try to run the most advanced reports that the platform is capable of, it'll give you information on 3 matters, and that's it.
Right.
So just making sure, yeah, to your point, good information and good information out. And with that, using the platform or the solution as a tool or a method of communication with outside counsel firms and vendors is very important, because if you're, especially for, say, the use case of invoice review, if an invoice needs to be disputed back to the firm, say there's a line item that's not in compliance with outside counsel billing guidelines, you can just do that right through the platform. Most solutions have it now where you can dispute it, reject it, just send it right back. You don't have to move over to your Outlook, although most people live in Outlook.
Yeah, that's true.
But you don't have to switch back and forth between different softwares to get the message across. And then also that goes back to keeping good data in there. You keep your record. You have a paper trail. The invoice was submitted, disputed on this date. This is the comment. Everyone that has access to that invoice sees that trail, and they know exactly what happened from start to finish.
Yeah, exactly. And, when people are reaching out and they're asking, where is this invoice, or can you give me a status of this invoice, or whatever, that specific invoice page, that gives us all of that information. And if they say, well, we didn't see that it was rejected, we didn't see that it was disputed, because I have had that, then I'm like, okay, well, it was, and then on this date, so we need to make sure that, this email address is whitelisted, which is another thing that we've had problems with in the past. So making sure that the automated emails from the solution that you're using do get to you, and that way your email or your invoices are promptly paid.
Promptly.
And that line of communication being open is important. So
absolutely.
And it's better if it comes from your solution, because like you said, less time consuming to do it that way and not have to switch between sources. So I agree.
Of course. Thank you. And then my number 4, it would be, it's kind of surprising, but quite often I'll receive emails from the various solutions that my clients utilize, just automated emails. They seem like they're spam emails that talk about new feature releases. And for the longest time, and I can openly admit this now to you, for the longest time, I would just delete them as soon as they came into the client email box.
Okay, so for 1 second, what our friends who are watching don't know is that when I hired Corbin, I trained him, and so now he's saying that he can openly share this with me because it doesn't happen anymore because we fixed it. So go on.
I should have, my mistake, but no, I used to delete the emails and not really pay attention to the new feature releases until I would just blatantly see them. They'd be blatantly obvious inside of the solution, and I'd say, whoa, there's a new button there. I wasn't able to do this before. So, since I learned to actually skim through those emails, actually read them, read about the new feature releases, actually know where to look for those features, because oftentimes they let you preview the features inside of the solution before you actually activate them for your organization. So once I found that, started looking at it, and I utilized that tool the new feature preview all the time.
Did it change your life?
It did.
Should have deleted those emails.
I should not. Could have changed my life a lot sooner. But
There you go.
one great example was I was completing this task as part of an optimization project for a client that they had 980 something odd matters that needed to be reopened. They were just trademark matters. They just needed to adjust one user on the matter. But what the current coordinator was doing was going into each individual matter and reopening it to change the data. Because you could do, the bulk update was available, but the bulk reopening of the matters was not available.
Right.
And I found within the body of one of those priorly mentioned new feature release emails, it said bulk reopen matters. And I went in, tried it out, was able to successfully save her not only probably 6 to 8 hours in just
And a headache, I'm sure.
I'm sure. And we got the information in accurately, and then we closed them all, and it took maybe 15 minutes. So it definitely something to pay attention to. I know they do look like spam. Like I said, I deleted them. So, but now I would
So
definitely
pay
suggest-
attention to those. They
Yes.
could be helpful.
Yes. Learn from Corbin's mistake.
No, that is a really good point though, because, you know, a lot of people, they see it come in and they're just like, oh, yeah. But it really could save time and effort
Mhm.
to look through those and just
Absolutely.
take the 5 minutes it takes to scan over it and say, oh my gosh, I needed that, you know.
Well, and another thing with that is when they do these releases, oftentimes they'll do a webinar or a demo of it. And if you have the opportunity to join those, that's great because then you're seeing it in action and you then know how to work it, you know how to use it. You can train your team and your clients, their firms, whoever needs training on it. And so, it's not always offered, but when it is, I recommend attending.
Absolutely. And with us as a company, I mean, we're founded on finding creative solutions to problems. And these problems aren't necessarily problems that are easily identifiable, pardon me. Try to condense that word, didn't work. But no, you could see these new features and it could be something, it could completely change a process that you follow internally, that in-house counsel follows, whoever it may be, but it may save a little bit of time, but it could just be easier.
Mhm.
And the process may not even be broken. So it's always great to stay up to date on the features, and it always gives you a leg up, especially with outside counsel, if you could get any type of analytics on them, on savings, on spending, on trends, things of that nature. So definitely recommend looking into that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was really, really great, Corbin. That was really
Thank you.
helpful and really insightful, and I really appreciate you putting that together.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
We were happy to, and I think that, we'll probably end up visiting this topic again because I know that there's more than just the 4 ways that you've shared today, so to be continued.
To be
Right.
continued.
I also noticed in there that matter closing is in there, and that's a thought that I would really like to approach on a podcast as well, not,
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
upcoming,
absolutely.
right? Corbin also wrote this as a blog, and it's featured on the Meet Your Tech Partner site. If you do want to read the blog, I can put a link in this podcast to that, as well as to Corbin's Calendly. If anybody has any questions or comments and wants to speak to Corbin, you can schedule a call. And same goes for Michelle and I. Our Calendly links are on www.mosaiclegalops.com. And I think that's it. Did I miss anything, guys?
I don't
I
think
don't
so.
think so.
Okay.
No, thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.